Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motorcast. It's yours, Dave. I got line special guests, father and son drag racers, Tony and Jameson Quinn. How you guys doing?
Good, Dave. How you doing tonight?
Great. So, Tony, let me ask you first question. How did you get into drag racing?
Well, back in 1980, it was either 80 or 81, my dad took me to the World Series of Drag Racing at Cordova. And we went as spectators, spent the weekend, slept in the back of the pickup truck, and did the whole 9 yards, and I've been hooked pretty much ever since.
And what year did you start racing?
I started going every weekend, but in 1982 we started. My dad went to school with Stan Stripe, and you remember that name from Chris Foster's podcast. They were up there racing the A dragster that Foster talked about. They'd blown an engine, and my dad and I ended up helping them change an engine in between rounds during a big bracket race, which was unheard of at that time. And we pretty much started going to all the races after that. So I've been doing that since, and I started driving as soon as I got my driver's license in 1989. I started racing my street car.
In 1989, what kind of street car did you drive?
I had a 78 Chevy Nova. I'd built a 350 for it in auto shop class, which Stan Stripe was the teacher of. And we put that in there, and it didn't run real fast, but we had a lot of fun with it.
Now, how many years did you run that car for?
We only ran that one for 1 year, and then we got another 73 Nova eventually that I raced a little bit off and on. I actually won the World Series of Drag Racing in 1993 with that car, and drove it back and forth to college when I was going to school and stuff like that. Looked silly going down the interstate with a 6-inch snorkel hood scoop on a car in the middle of the winter.
Wow.
We had fun with that and just kind of kept progressing from there.
Yeah, speaking of the World Series, yeah, too bad they canceled this year because of the COVID-19.
Yeah, they canceled it, but yet we're still going to be there racing. They're calling it Bracket Bonanza, and they're going to have racing on Friday and Saturday. Saturday will still have the jet cars and the Ozark Mountain Super Shifters and Nostalgia Pro Stocks and stuff like that. They won't have any of the Top Fuel cars or anything. I think they're still going to have Nostalgia Top Fuel, if I remember right. And then that'll be the final bracket points race for all the bracket racers and the juniors.
Now, for that event, your son's going to be running the junior over there?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We just found out today. We got a phone call, and Cordova called us, and he qualified for the division bracket finals this year. So that's pretty cool in his first actual year of racing. So.
Wow. Yeah. He's the future of drag racing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been doing a really good job this year, and he got his license last year, and we got to run 1 day of racing. It was supposed to be a 2-day race at Byron, and we got rained out. So we got 1 day of racing in last year. As soon as they announced that they were opening up this year, we started running the points program up at Byron, Illinois. And he's won a couple rounds up there, having fun, learning. That's the big thing. And then Cordova started their points program, so we've been running there. He got a semifinal finish on the first points race, and then ended up getting his first win on the second day at Cordova. So he's having a pretty good year for his first year.
Now, what year did you start driving dragsters, Tony?
Let's see. The first dragster that I drove, actually, a Cordova racer, Jimmy Barsima, he had gotten a new Danny Nelson car, and they actually let me make a run in it. It ran like 9 O's, so I got to make a pass in that. That was the very first time I ever drove one. Then a guy by the name of Tim D. Cook, he had a C. Econo dragster, and and I was working on getting my license in that, and then it just didn't work out due to weather and so on like that. It was a little small block Chevy car that ran mid-sevens. It was a pretty quick car. That would have been back in the mid-90s I started doing that. But kept progressing, and then the A dragster that we actually changed the engines in with Stripe and Foster at the World Series, I ended up, the guy that owns it now is Russ Brown, and I ended up getting my Super Comp license in that car. Would have been 2007, I believe. He was nice enough to let me get my license in his car, and then we just dabble along in that every now and then. And I have a very good friend here in Galesburg, Don Rosenberry. Him and his family, they have a really nice Super Comp dragster, and his daughter Lacey normally drives it. And when she's busy, then I'm lucky enough that they let me get in and drive it now and then. We go make some full throttle runs with me in it now and then. Lacey and I both went 730s at 181, 182 mile an hour flat out with that car.
Now, when you say A dragster, you mean a fuel dragster?
No, it was a gas dragster. It's a competition eliminator car.
No,
had big block Chevrolet and an automatic transmission. That would have been back, let's see, when we were running those, or when Stan was running those, that was 82, 83, 84, and I don't remember if we ran it in 85 still or not. That was the second. He had two A dragsters. The second one is the one that Chris Foster ended up, that was the first car that he drove. But, we battled back and forth with John Lingenfelder for a while for the A dragster class record and everything. That was a fun year.
Now, have you ever driven an alcohol dragster?
Yes. Again, Stan Stripe. His name is pretty much synonymous with all of my racing, it seems. I crewed for him for ever and ever, and his son Dana was driving the car, and then finally Dana decided he didn't want to drive anymore, and Stan gave me my chance. And I got my license in 2009, made some runs at Cordova when they were still NHRA, and then finally 2009 at the Division 5 Regional at Earlville, I ended up finishing up and finally got my license finished up out there, and ran the U.S. Nationals with him in 2010. Didn't qualify, but we had fun, and I get to say that I ran the U.S. Nationals in top alcohol. So I'd love to run one some more. Finances don't really produce the funding to go run top alcohol. It's so expensive. I love the class, but so yeah.
So now, Tony, how was it? How was your experience the first time ever going down the drag strip?
The first time going down the drag strip,
Yeah.
I would have been in the old Chevy Nova. It blew third gear out of the transmission right off the bat. It was just a 3-speed power glide. We bought the car for $100 and it didn't run. We put a motor in it and then we went up to the track and ran it. It was fun. Obviously, it hooked me or I wouldn't still be doing it.
Were you nervous?
Not in that car. Now, like when we get into the dragsters and stuff, yeah, I got a little nervous the first few times. First time running the alcohol dragster, I was very nervous. That was at Cordova, home track. You know, I grew up there and making runs. We were making license runs during used to have a big nostalgia fest. So you got all the nostalgia front engine cars, and here we are with a modern day alcohol dragster. But it created some attention at least. Very first run down the track, launched a little soft, and it went instantly into tire shake, and the shift light's breaking off and flying at me, and parts and pieces are breaking off and flying at me while I'm trying to drive the car and lift and see where I'm going.
Wow. Yeah.
I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. That was probably the most fun I ever had was driving that thing. It's unreal driving an alcohol car, revving the motor up and everything. It was a clutch car, not an automatic. It was a real man's alcohol car, and
Now, have you done any racing this year, Tony?
I personally have not driven at all this year. Since we got Jameson's car, we've been concentrating on the junior deal. The Super Comp car that I drive off and on for Rosenberry's, we've had some ailments with that. He had some engine issues last year, and this year he's having some transmission fits with it. I think they're getting ready to get it back out in September finally and see what happens for them. But so this year's been concentrating on Jameson. We've been, like I said, we've been running Byron points races. We were just up there this past Saturday, and the next 2 Saturdays will be at Cordova. And we went out to Indianapolis. We ran the Indy 2 national event. They included the junior dragsters out there. Antron Brown was very instrumental in that, getting that set up for all the kids. So there was 32 cars in the 6 to 9 year old class that Jameson was in, and he ended up number 18 qualifier. They took the best 16 reaction times out of their 4 qualifying runs. So we were pretty happy with how he did. It took an 038 to qualify, and he had an 045 light. That was his best reaction. For a 7-year-old kid, that's pretty good. Never being at a big national, he had never went to one, so he had a lot of nerves and everything. He did pretty good.
Now, for Jameson driving the junior dragster, did you push him to drive it, or he chose to drive a junior dragster?
Well, I'd been looking at him, of course, but didn't really feel that I had the funding to do it, and we ended up getting the funding. My boss, Rick Jones, he helped me so that I could facilitate buying it, and Jameson went and looked at the car. We looked at a couple different cars, and we settled on the one that we've got and bought it used. But it's all him. He's taken very naturally to it, and I keep asking him every week, if he wants to do it, if he wants to go, because I don't want to make him do it. I want him to do it because he wants to do it.
Now, he's sitting there with you?
Yep. No, bud.
So, Jameson, how much do you love drag racing?
What?
How much do you love drag racing?
A lot.
A lot. How was it the first time for you going down a drag race track?
It felt good to be on the track for my first time.
Was it fast?
And it was fast.
What did he run on his first time ever, Tony?
I don't remember exactly on the very first lap ever. But right now, they have to run the spec engine for NHRA. It's a Briggs & Stratton LO206. It's a sealed motor, and you really can't do a whole lot to it. But he's averaging 44 to 47 mile an hour. 47 is the fastest he's went speed-wise in the 8th mile. But that's the fastest CT is a 1375 that the cars went. We're only allowed to dial 1390 with him, but it's been a struggle to get the car to run consistent with this engine, and we just keep plugging along. I'm thinking about ordering some jets for the carburetor tonight, actually, so try and richen it up. Maybe I can get it to run a little bit more consistent for the rest of this season.
Now, does he have any drag racing heroes, Tony?
Got any drag racing heroes?
No.
No.
Who's your favorite racer?
John Force.
There you go.
He's a huge John Force fan. He was disappointed that the Force team wasn't running the Indy Nationals and all that. But unfortunate that they're sitting out this year. But they'll be back next year, and he'll get to meet his big hero. So
now what?
He's grown up around all the cars, and he's sat in Erica's car, and he's sat in. Of course, he was sitting in Chris Foster's car when he was about a week old. So.
Now, what about your dad, Jameson? Is he a hero to you drag racing too?
Kind of.
Kind of.
He's seen me. He's went when we've raced Rosenberry's car a few times, but most of my driving was before he was around. So ever since he was born, I've kind of scaled back on how much I go, and now we're obviously with him racing, we've kind of stepped it back up again. We're having a lot of fun though. We're both learning a lot. Junior dragster's a whole lot different than top alcohol car or super comp car. It's very hard for me to get my head wrapped around that we're learning. And we go run these points races, and I'm used to when we're running points races, it's cutthroat. And I have to remember that he's only 7. It's only his first year, and we're still learning this. So it's a challenge for both of us, but he's been doing pretty good. We struggle on the starting line now and then. We changed the gear on the car for last weekend, and that really helped on the starting line. It actually gave him so he was red lighting, and so we're going to change a few more things, and we might be going to do some testing on Friday, and so he can get some more practice, and then another points race on Saturday.
Now, do any other junior dragster teams give you guys any advice at all?
Yeah, people that previously owned this car in the beginning, the Lewis family from here in Galesburg, Zach was the one that drove it. Zach actually, with a different car, he won the East Coast Finals at one point. I think it was 2017. They've been helping us a lot with suggestions and everything, and they actually hauled us out to Indy in their truck and trailer. They were bracket racing also. So they've been a huge help, giving me suggestions on how to run the car and things to do to make things better. And at the recent Junior Nationals up at Cordova, Antron Brown was there with his 2 sons, and we met him, made friends with him, and for next year we're going to buy a flathead motor from Antron, and he's offered to help us out getting the clutch set up proper and everything. It's one of his used motors, and so we can step up and run the 1190 class next year and hopefully have a little bit more consistency and make it easier to get some wins.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a family at Cordova, one of the biggest families of racing, I think, the Weeks family up there at Cordova, and super nice people, and they're always right there to help. And another friend of ours, Ben Wolf, his son Brady, does very good. He's leading points, I think, at 2 tracks, at Cordova and Byron, in his Super Junior car. And they're always right there to help. There's so many people have been around to help us, whether it be sponsorship or giving advice or helping at the track or whatever. It's been very nice.
Now, how about you, Tony? You got any influential drag racers that you look up to?
Oh, there's several. Of course, my main idol is Big Daddy Don Garlitz. I've always admired him and all that he's done. And it seems like, he never really had, when he had the super shops, he had sponsorship from them, but otherwise he kind of did everything without a whole lot of sponsorship. And the history with him is just intriguing to me. And the fact that there's so much history with him at Cordova, at our home track, that Cordova World Series was Garlitz's first major win up there in 1957. And I love the history part of it. So I look up to him. Stan Strike does racing with him. JC, Chris Foster, I'm old school. I still call him JC. There's several, but those are the key ones.
Now, does Jameson have any sponsors for the junior dragster?
Yeah, he's got quite a few people that are helping him out. Some good friends of ours here in Knoxville, where we live. The Ponder family, they own Lackey Monuments in Galesburg. They stepped up and they're sponsoring him. One of my very best friends, Josh Smith, he owns Knoxville Kuksul Wan Martial Arts. He's sponsoring him. Let's see. My dad does Quinn stained glass. He repairs these big, giant stained glass windows that are in churches that were made in the 1830s. takes them all apart and maps them out and puts all new lead in them and fixes the broken glass and puts them all back together. It's unbelievable what he does with them. But he helps us out. We use his truck and his open trailer right now so we can get our own truck and an enclosed trailer. Let's see. Rick Jones and his whole family, they've helped us. I've worked there at RJ Race Cars for, let's see, next week will be 21 years now. And they've helped us, so we have RJ Race Cars and Quartermax on the side of the car because of all the help that they've given us. So we kept the car out there for a while, and that's where we taught Jameson how to drive the cars in the parking lot at the shop. He made probably 30 runs in the parking lot at the shop out there. Let's see.
I actually put my arm against the exhaust. It was out of gas, and I leaned over the exhaust and broke my arm.
Yeah, he got his first war wound and leaned in the exhaust. The EGT was reading 1,200 degrees, and he leaned his arm on the exhaust there. But another sponsor, Chris Murphy, Pure Madness Racing. He's been there since the beginning. As soon as he used to own a couple nostalgia funny cars and stuff, and I did some work on his funny car for him. And as soon as he found out that we were getting Jameson a car, Chris stepped right up immediately and wanted to sponsor him, and he's been with us for a couple of years now. Let's see, who am I missing? I have a cousin, distant cousin, that's been helping us out every year, Jody Lennon. She actually lives out in Wyoming. She's been very supportive of Jameson and the racing and so on. Again, the Lewis family, they've been helping us out. But when NHRA announced the head and neck restraint rule for the juniors, we had been looking at one anyway, so the rule change didn't bother me. But they had one that was Zach's that didn't fit him anymore, so they donated that to us, and then they were gracious enough to get it recertified for us. So Jameson has basically a brand new head and neck restraint because of them. That was a huge help. That saved us like $1,000 with that, because those things are so expensive to buy a good one and everything. But I think that's it. Gosh, I hope I'm not missing somebody. But there's been so many people that have stepped up to support him, and that's all people coming to us just because they want to support Jameson. It's just blowing me away.
So what do you love most about being a drag racer, Tony?
The challenge. I love the speed. I guess my wife tells me I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie. The faster the better. Every time I go fast, I don't know, it's like it's not enough. My dream was always to drive an alcohol car. And Stan Strike facilitated that. I wish that I could afford to do it more, but it's such an expensive class. Those cars are amazing. They're launching off the starting line at 6, 7, 8,000 RPM with the clutch in there. It's just unreal. I'm very lucky that I got to do it.
Now, how about you, Jameson? What's your favorite thing about drag racing?
That everyone, almost all our family has done it, and I finally get to do it too.
Jameson's a third-generation racer. My dad raced off and on while he was in high school, and then once I started driving and got out of college, then he started racing again. We used to have an 87 Buick Regal that he raced quite a bit, and I drove off and on. It was always a challenge to see who could go faster, me or him. And then now we've got Jameson going, so he's the third generation of the Quinns to be drag racing. It's kind of cool.
So now, Tony, if you can have fans remember one thing about you, what would you want the fans to remember about you?
Oh, I don't know. I try to include the fans. If we're out around the alcohol car or even with Jameson's car, we'll try and do some car shows here and there as much as we can. This year's been a little goofy for that, but if the kids come around, whether it's the big car or the junior, we try to put them in there and we try to include them and show them and teach them and you got to create interest for the sport, and the only way you do that is to put the kids and even the adults for that matter, put them in the car, let them see what it feels like, because a lot of people aren't as lucky as what I've been to have. You know, I've never owned any of the cars that I've driven other than my street cars, so I've been so blessed that all these people have trusted me with their expensive race cars and let me go drive them, and I've gotten to go so fast and gotten to realize my dream because other people had these cars and were willing to facilitate it. And if the least I can do is set some little kid in Jameson's car or in the big car and let them see what it feels like to sit in a race car, and maybe that sparks a little interest, and I just trying to pay it forward a little bit, I guess.
Now, are you the only crew member that works on Jameson's car?
No, my wife, Tracy, she's a very huge part of this, and without her, we wouldn't be doing it at all. My dad helps off and on. Like I say, he facilitates the tow vehicle and the trailer right now. Without him and my mom letting us use that, we wouldn't be able to go racing at all. My little Volkswagen wouldn't be towing a trailer very well to get to the racetrack. Just so many people help. With Rick letting me, he let me keep the car out there and work on it and everything, and letting us go out there anytime we wanted to test when we were teaching Jameson how to drive, and because that's most important. We made at least 30, if not 50, runs out in the parking lot out at RJ Race Cars, teaching him how to drive and how to slow down and how to properly turn the car so it didn't get tipped over. Because this car's got the narrow. It's a 2000 Black Boss chassis. And it's got the narrow rear end on it. So if you're going too fast when you turn, it'll tip over. And we don't want that to happen. And just so many people have helped out. It's just kind of crazy, actually.
Now, when you drag race, Tony, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions when you're out there drag racing?
Yes and no, not really. I kind of get superstitious about it. If I do good on one weekend, then I kind of try to repeat the same stuff all the time, all the way down to shirt and pants sometimes. I was on a roll there for a while, and I was winning a lot, and we had a 96 Beretta, Tracy and I did, and I was racing it in street class in 1999. And I got on a roll that year and was kicking a lot of butt. And I think the worst finish I had was quarterfinals all year long. And I went everywhere racing that thing. And I ended up finishing second place overall in points at Cordova that year, all because I had to work one day. And it wasn't at the shop. But yeah, it's just so much fun,
Now, how about Jameson? Does he have any rituals? Does he do anything the same way all the time?
You do anything the same way every time?
Kinda.
We get in on the same side of the car each time. Kind of fanatical about that. I didn't think about that when you asked me. We both do that, and I'm a fanatic about strapping him in, and Stan did that for me and JC when JC was driving. Chris, sorry. I belt him in a certain way each time. The left shoulder belt goes on first, and then the right shoulder belt. I always do everything the same way. I guess I do that just so that I don't forget something,
Now, is there a lot of preparation that goes into getting the junior dragster ready for a weekend of racing, Tony?
At this point in time, there's not a whole lot. Last week, we were changing gears and moving the motor back to make everything fit and everything else. Normally, there's there's not a whole lot. The Lewis family loaned us their simulator that they had built, so it's basically all it is it's basically the driver's compartment of a junior dragster, and so he can sit in there and practice on the practice tree, actually sitting in a car that way. And so we try to have him practice as much as possible out there for starting line purposes, and otherwise just kind of clean the stuff up. There's not a whole lot to do it at this point. As we get going faster, there'll be more and more to do. So next year we'll be running alcohol, so we'll have a little bit more work with it next year. And we're still on gas with this little motor right now. So
now, do you guys
nothing like the top alcohol car? Nothing like the top alcohol car where you had to tear it all apart and all that in between each race. So.
Right. Now, do you guys have any favorite tracks?
You got a favorite track?
Byron.
He loves Byron. That's where he got his license last year. BJ and the guys up there that run it, super, super people. They treat you like family from the second you walk in. And I tell you, when he was doing his licensing, BJ was right next to him on a scooter, so that if something happened, he rides along on his scooter next to the kids that are licensing. He was just doing it for 2 more kids this past Saturday. But he has this big, like a broom handle, so that if something happens, he can reach over and shut the car off right away going down the track. And they just take such good care of the kids in the junior class up there. They go above and beyond, and it's a super nice place to race. A lot of history up there also, like Cordova. Well, he's only ran the 3 places so far. He's ran Cordova and Byron and Indy. We'll be running Eddyville for the division bracket finals here in a few weeks, but so it's still early for him. But he loves Byron. Myself, boy, I don't know. I've been so blessed to go to so many different tracks around the country when we were running the alcohol car all the time. You know, Topeka's cool. It's just so spread out there. Norwalk is super, super nice out there. Bader family does such a good job out there. And, of course, the dollar ice cream, that's always a plus. I always end up back at Cordova, it seems like, though. There's so much history there, and you know, the World Series is the oldest race in the entire sport of drag racing, and it's just, there's so much that has went on there, and I'm very lucky and honored to be on that list of winners with Don Garlitz and all the other big name guys that have won there back when Top Fuel was actually competing, not paid in to come there, you know.
Yep. Now, where do you get all of Jameson's safety equipment from, Tony?
So far, we've gotten his helmet is a race clip now. He picked out the American flag helmet. At first, I thought, boy, that's a little loud. And I got it, and I personally fell in love with it. It's really cool. A lot of people notice it. And his fire suit is from Jegs. It's the one that's got Jegs across the front. We've been fortunate to kind of get some discounts there and everything. And so most of his stuff is all either G-Force or Race Clip right at the moment. He's growing so much so fast that I want to get him an actual fitted suit one of these days and get a custom suit that's just made for him and have it match you. The car is like almost a neon green. It's this really bright neon green, and it's got a pearl coating on it too, so it kind of changes colors a little bit when the sun hits it just right. But so eventually I'd like to get something that kind of goes along with the color of the car and everything, something custom for him. But as much as he's growing right now, that's not in the cards.
So now, what's been the fastest you've ever been down a drag strip, Tony?
The fastest I've went was on my last licensing run at Earlville in 2009. I went. It was a 568, something like that, at 262 mile an hour. Wow! And it's the fastest that I've been. someday, maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get to increase that some more. But I still have my license, and I would love the chance to drive again. It's, takes a lot of funding to do the top alcohol deal. You never know what'll happen. Maybe one of these days I'll end up figuring out how to make it happen again. But even if I don't, I'm still so lucky. I got to do that. Let's face it, there's not a lot of people who get to go that fast, in anything, let alone in a quarter of a mile. And it was a lot of fun.
Now, do you have any hobbies outside of drag racing, Tony?
Really, truthfully, not really. I do have a high-end truck road bike that I enjoy riding. Honestly, I just need to get off my lazy butt and get riding on it again. I enjoy riding bike. Jameson also enjoys riding, but get home from the shop after working all day and take care of things here. Jameson's got a little quad runner he tears up the yard with all day and having fun. So by the time Dad gets home, I'm almost too tired to jump on the bicycle and go ride.
Well, first he's got to get it out of the basement and up the tires. I've always been into tropical fish, and one time I used to have 15 tropical fish tanks going. We were breeding them and selling them, and we're down to just one. I enjoy that, but there again, it takes so much time for those that I've kind of backed off. We've still got one tank going, and pretty much my whole life is consumed with drag racing, and now with Jameson, paying attention to him, and we try to go to Indianapolis as often as I can. I have an older son that lives out there, Byron, and super good kid. He works his tail off, so there's not a whole lot of time that we get together anymore. He's 25 years old and works out there, and he has his own life, and we try to get out there as often as possible to see him. And but like I said, he works his tail off and doesn't get a whole lot of time off. So
okay, so now here's a fun question for both of you. What is your favorite food to eat?
what's your favorite food, James?
Food? Mac and cheese.
He's a huge macaroni and cheese fan. Now myself, I like barbecue. Smoked food, I love it. We've got a smoker. I haven't used it in a long time, but
We got him a smoker for his birthday.
I'll smoke ribs out there. I smoked turkey for Thanksgiving dinner a couple of years ago, and we've got a local barbecue joint right here in town. It's about 2 blocks up the street. We go up there quite a bit. I'm a barbecue junkie.
All right, what's your guys' favorite beverage to drink?
What do you like to drink?
Do it for
He's making me go first this time. Most of the time, iced tea, a little bit of sugar in it. I used to drink sweet tea, but it's almost too sweet anymore. So they always look at me funny with all the COVID restrictions. They can't put sugar out on the table, so they look at me like, "Really?" What you?
Sometimes I get this drink that's got like Sprite and grenadine in it. I really like that.
He likes the Shirley Temples. We go to one local restaurant, and he likes to get his special drink, as his mom calls it. And he likes the Shirley Temples with Sprite and grenadine. But
all right, so
of course, he drinks a whole lot of chocolate milk too.
Chocolate milk's good. So what's your favorite music to listen to, Tony?
Oh, I listen to a whole lot of stuff. The main type of music I listen to anymore is just Christian music. I listen to a lot of that. My wife and I went to see Toby Mac in concert 2 or 3 times now. I think it's 2 times, and the third time was going to be this past spring, and then with COVID that got canceled and put off, and so we're still waiting on that. But and then I love bluegrass music also. There's a
from Chicago that comes down to Galesburg now and then, the Hen House Prowlers. They're really, really good. They go all over the world. And these guys, they sing. They go to Africa with the U.S. State Department and teaching music over there and learning music from over there. And they'll actually learn the language. And so they'll end up singing their songs in whatever language of whatever country they're in. And they mix them up and do these smash-ups. It's really cool.
Now, has Jameson had a most embarrassing moment in the junior dragster?
You had a most embarrassing moment in the junior?
At the end of the track at Barn, I've gone on 2 wheels.
He went up on 2 wheels?
I hit the gate at Cordova, too.
So, we went testing the Friday before the Indy National, and that was his first time running at night, and he didn't take the turn quite wide enough and rubbed the wheel on the gate to go through the wall. It bent the spindle, and Dad was in a panic, and the Lewis family, Mike, he helped us out. We put it in the press, and we got it straightened out, thank goodness. And this car is a super light car. The whole front end's all aluminum. It's got aluminum spindles and everything. And yeah, Jameson's only 7, and he can pick the front end of the car all the way up off the ground. Of course, he's not your average 7-year-old. All the other parents, they sit and kind of smile and take pictures of him at the finish line after they've shut off, because all the other kids, they get out of the car and take their safety equipment off, and here's Jameson. He's taking the clutch belt off, and he walks around checking on all the other racers, seeing how they did, making sure everybody's okay, and he's kind of a social butterfly down there, but that's okay. He cares about all the other racers, and he'll go check on them before he even takes his own safety equipment off. It's so cool to watch.
Well, that's pretty neat that he's like that.
He, like I said, he's not your average 7-year-old. He's a big boy. He weighs 125 pounds. That's why we need a little bit more motor for the 1190, and he's strong as an ox and always has been. And he's been picking full-size cement blocks up shoulder high since he was 4 years old. And he's unbelievable, the stuff that he can do, and no older than he is. He'll pick up his car, he picks up his 4-wheeler, and it's ungodly how strong he is.
So, Jameson, what's been your greatest memory in drag racing so far?
I don't know. Probably my biggest first win that I've got.
He got his first win up at Cordova, and so far that's the biggest thing right now. He got his first trophy, and so yeah, he says actually his second trophy. We went to a local car show last year, and they awarded him with a special trophy for best junior dragster, and really nice of the local car club to take care of him. He enjoys doing the car shows with his car, and there's a guy by the name of Gary Gowdy that owns an really old Shell station here in Knoxville, and he's restored it and back to like 1930s style, and all the hot rodders that go through town, everybody stops there and has pictures. The Hot Rod Power Tour came through town a few years ago, and we opened up RJ race cars and let everybody kind of take a little tour through the shop while we were working, and then Gowdy had the station all set up, and because they came right through Knoxville, so I don't think there's more than 10 cars that didn't stop at his gas station and take pictures and everything that year. It was really cool. Gary has the last Friday every month. They have all the old guys have hot rod night up there. So this past month we took Jameson's car up there. All the old school hot rodders have always included him and let him mess around working on their cars and all that. It's pretty neat how they've accepted him in.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank both of you guys for doing an interview tonight.
I thank you, Dave. It's a new opportunity.